Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Thank you, John, for that message. I think we all remember being an awkward teenager. I don't know where the For Tomorrow part came in my title, but it's just supposed to be trust. So I want to start out by asking everyone some questions and have a little poll here with a show of hands. How many of you here have family? Hands up. Almost everyone. Oh, one person doesn't have family. I think she came here with her mom. How many here have friends? Oh, mostly everyone, I hope so. I think we're all friends here. Facebook friends. Now I'm going to start narrowing it down. How many of you are in a relationship? Ooh. Pastor Berman, was this? How many of you have been in a relationship before? Mostly everyone. I don't know about Abel and Jelly. They weren't raising their hands. I'm kidding. How many are married here? How many of you are happy being married here? Oh, the hand should be even higher and flailing everywhere. All right, now with these questions I can reveal my ulterior motives. Just kidding. So assuming everyone here has been in a relationship, whether it be one in a family, whether it be a platonic friend, whether it be a romantic one, whether it be marriage, or whether it be your kids, or whatever. We've all been in a relationship. We all are in a relationship. And so, under that assumption, it's fair to assume that all of us have been hurt by a relationship. All of us here have been let down by someone in a relationship. Everyone here has been lied to by someone. I'm sure a lot of people here, if not everyone, at least once in their life have been betrayed by someone in a relationship. Now, let's flip this. How many of us here have hurt someone? How many of us here have lied to someone in a relationship? How many people have betrayed someone? That one might be a little lower for the amount of people, but all of us have done these things because we're all human. We make mistakes. It's our nature as flawed beings, as humans, that we just aren't perfect. We're not even close to being perfect. And so we hurt people. We hurt ourselves. And so let me ask another question. How many of you have ever felt like you've been let down by God before? I know I have. I felt let down that my mom died. I felt let down that my life changed so radically. And I think it's fair for us to feel let down by God. And notice that I say feel let down, because that doesn't mean God let us down. It just means that's how we responded to a situation that happened in our life. And I don't think it's too far of a stretch to say all of us here, in some capacity, whether really big or something really small, have been kind of let down by God. We felt let down. It doesn't mean He let us down, but we really felt kind of disappointed that something didn't happen how we felt how we felt God might have said it was going to happen. From our own human perspective, things just didn't happen. Things just seemed wrong, and we got hurt by it. And I believe that it takes a complete human lifetime, whether you are 100 or whether you're up to 20. But the time it takes for birth until death, I think that's how long it takes to learn to trust God. Because as humans, we're imperfect, and so we do not have perfect trust. We do not have perfect faith in things. We do not always perfectly believe in others. We don't even believe in ourselves a lot of the time. And that's what God has been really putting me through lately. Well, not putting me through, but I've been in a season. And I know it'll take my entire life to completely trust God with all of my being. But really, lately, I've been witnessing what it means and what it looks like to trust God just on a daily basis, on a monthly basis, on just a yearly basis, just on different levels. I've really been put through this season of trusting God. And knowing that no matter what, even though I feel like God let me down during something, He didn't. That just, even though through my human perspective it may seem like God wasn't there, He was. And so, whenever I look through the Bible, it always makes me laugh to see these great men of faith. We see someone like Noah, who for, how long did it take him to build the ark? Is there a doctor here? How long did it take? Like 20 years. Huh? 120? I was reading, and some people are like speculating how it could take between 20 and 40, because in the Bible there was 120, but that was at the end, but that's its own theological thing. But it took decades. And that is decades of trust, because the entire time people were ridiculing him. People were saying, "Oh, you are crazy. What are you doing? You're a freak. How could you trust that? There's no flood. It's sunny today. I'm sweating. How is there going to be a flood today?" And for years, for decades, he trusted that that this flood would happen, that God told him on purpose, and he trusted him. Or when we look at Moses, who was in a desert for 40 years, I bet he wished he had a flood to come there. And that was hard. It took 40 years. That literally is like 2 generations of humans. While people were in that desert, kids were born, people died. There was another generation and another generation in the time it took to enter this desert and to leave it. And yet the entire time Moses had steadfast trust. And we see that throughout the Bible. And whenever I hear the phrase, just a great person, a great man, or a great woman of faith, it's saying that this person is a great person of trust in God. Because faith and trust are synonymous. You cannot have faith in something if you don't trust it. And you can't trust something without having faith in it. And so, when we look at Abraham in Genesis 12, verse 1, you can put that up if you want or not. In the Message translation, it says, "Leave your country, your family, and your father's home for a land that I will show you." And by that time, he was still Abram. And Abram was one of the first people recorded in the Bible to really have an encounter with God, where God spoke to him. He might have been the first recorded, wasn't he? Yeah, he was. Or one of them. And by that time, there was no recorded church where he's like, "Oh, this guy exists. I know it. There are people following him. I can trust it. There's a Bible here. It's already been written, so I know this. I know this is true." No, it was just a voice that spoke to him and said, "Trust me, I am God." And so, how do you know there wasn't some guy in a bush just kind of being a jerk and just yelling at him? He trusted God. He trusted him with his life. And God, with all these people, there was a promise with this trust. With Noah, he promised that he would keep him alive during the flood. With Moses, there was a promise of the promised land. With Abram, he promised him that he would be the father of many nations. And with all of them, as we see, they came true. All of them. And in today's world, I'm finding that with our faith, it seems like we don't have that steadfast faith because everyone in that time, Abraham, or in the time of Abraham, Noah, and Moses, they all lived to be 500 years old. They're like a centurion with 4 century, I don't know what it is. They lived for centuries, and they had this faith. And of course, I believe that they did have this faith, but I believe they're also completely human. And I think during this time, they had some scary moments where, I don't know, these people are starting to get to me. I'm building this ark, and it's taking decades. Is this going to happen? How can every single animal on earth come into this one boat? And it's just, I think that these people, these men, even though they're great men of faith, I think they were human. I think they had some doubts on the way. I think they had some scary moments where they just weren't sure what happened. I know that's not something that's just in the Bible. Oh, Moses felt afraid. Moses wasn't sure about this one time. That's not there, but knowing that they are human, that'll tell us that they did feel fear. They did feel doubt. And it's just funny how then you always see stories in the Bible of these men who had faith for 40 years, where in today's world we can't have faith for like 4 minutes. Where it's like we're at work and your boss is like, oh, I'm cutting your pay in half. Oh, my faith is gone. Where's my life going to be now? Where am I going to have a house? How am I going to support my family? Our faith just plummets in the span of like 4 words. We can just lose all faith in God. And God's really been putting me through this place where I just need to trust Him. I just need to understand that He is there. That through all of my trials, through all of my tribulations, that He is there. That He's going through it with me. And the one that's really been happening for me, and I really enjoy looking back at it, it's kind of hard to go through it. Things are always nice in hindsight. But in the summer, I was really nervous because I want to finish college as soon as possible, because that's what I need to do to start becoming a real pastoral intern, so I can really start my life. And so I'm really focused on finishing college. But in the summertime, I did not have any money for CSUN, because taking like one semester of CSUN is like $5,000-$6,000. I'm like, oh yeah, I have that in my pocket. Let me just pull that out. And so I went and talked to this advisor, and I was like, hey, I don't have $6,000 I can just spend on school, and I don't want to go in debt because I've gone this far without it. What can I do? And so I was talking to this advisor, and he was just like, hey, you can take classes at a community college that apply for here. He's like, that'll literally cost like 1/8 of what you would pay at a college at here at CSUN. So I'm like, okay. And so I looked into it, and I went to GCC, which is where I'm at right now, just for this semester. And versus like the $6,000, like the classes were all until like $800. It's so cheap. And that is. And it's like, I felt really reassured, and then I felt scared again, given how strong my faith is, that I didn't have $800. So I was like, I just don't have $800. I have a job, I'm a manager at a food bank, but that does not pay enough. Charities are not known for being this gigantic, monopolistic, money just pouring out from like every single orifice of it kind of business. And so I didn't know where I'd get this money from. And so I really felt God saying that I really had to trust Him, that even through my own human sight, I cannot see far. Just like Moses, just like Abraham, they could not foresee that this flood would happen. They were told, but they didn't know how it was going to happen. They didn't know exactly when it was going to happen, but they trusted God, and they let Him lead the way. And so that's what I chose to do. And then God blessed me with this church, who gave me an honorarium, and that paid for my classes completely. And that's why giving offerings is so important. Because it helps. A pastoral intern will be a pastor one day. That is a tangible instance of your offering going to someone to become a pastor. There you go. That's your pre-offering message. No, I'm just kidding. And so, I know this is going to continue for all of my life. I know there's never going to be a stage in my life where I'm like, oh, I'm pretty comfortable. I have no worries. You know, God, you set me up right now, and you know, you can take it easy and just stop blessing me, because I think I can handle this on my own. I'm going to be like the guy who just invested in his barns and just have them overflowing and bursting out, and then I'm going to be good. That bursting out's going to come on me, and this money, I'm going to inject it in my veins, and I'm going to live forever. And my life is never going to be like that. I'm always going to go through something where it's just like, by my own human will, I don't know how I'm going to do this. I don't know how this is going to work. I don't know how I can manage on my own. And so God's just been putting me through that. And it's been nice to always have something to fall back on, where I'm just like, God provided that for me. He's not just going to stop one day because he got tired. He's not going to stop one day because I can not always be faithful and not always be 100% trusting in everything he does all the time. I mean, as we look through the Bible and through all the stories, we see that God was faithful. Almost every story is a testament to God's faith, to God's trustfulness, to God's trustworthiness. He's the apex of someone we can trust. And trusting in God will always pay off, as we see in the Bible, and as we see in our own lives. Anyone here, I'm sure I could point you out and just be like, tell me a moment where trusting God was worth it, where you decided to trust God instead of yourself, and it paid off. And I'm sure everyone here has at least one story where they can say trusting in God paid off. Because with the nature of God, with God's goodness, with God's love, His love and His goodness and just His favor that pours out on us does not come from us. It doesn't come from our faithfulness to Him. It doesn't come from our trust in Him. It doesn't come from our love of Him. It comes from Him. He is the source of all this goodness because of who He is, because He is trust, because He is love, because He is life, He is joy, He is everything, and He pours that out on us. And although we all stumble, we all fail all the time. We're humans, just like many people in the Bible have as well. God is still there. God is still consistent. God still is trustworthy. He will always be there. And that's why I love the song we sang this earlier today during the worship service, because we all know it. It's kind of just like the motto of Christians. And whenever we say it, we already know the response. God is good. And all the time.
God